Ah, I'm so happy with what's been happening in this practice then. I really am, because the level of activity is so encouraging. It feels as if lots of you are getting more courageous. Now, this wouldn't happen if it weren't for the cooperation between yourself, your willingness to want to do this, the animals' willingness to be our teachers, and also the willingness for the animals' owners and guardians for providing the feedback. So it takes a lot of coordination and it takes teamwork, but hopefully all of that is really helping to build your confidence because, and I'm going to keep repeating this because I said this in my last webinar, animals tell me every day that animals need animal communicators. And just to kind of clarify that, it doesn't always mean you have to be a certain type of animal communicator. You know, if you choose to be a professional animal communicator and, work and offer your services in a business way, then fabulous. If you want to do it as part of just, incorporate it in your other therapy, then that's brilliant. If you want to do it purely just to help your family's animals, your own animals, or any other animals that just come your way, as just something you do, then all of that is absolutely valid. And practicing in this way will allow your confidence to grow, like I say, in whichever way you choose or wish to use animal communication. So that's actually not that important in terms of how you want to use it. So at this stage, it's more about how you feel, what your process is, what you desire for yourself when it comes to the clarity of the information that comes through, your level of trust with the process, how you feel about being able to receive this information. And it's your, what I call your curious journey. So if you can embody the energy of curiosity throughout, then it will help you to release doubts. It will help you to release fears. I still work on that. I still remind myself for every communication I do, and I do communications on a professional basis. I do communications for friends and family. I do communications with my own animals. And whenever I feel as if I'm a little bit nervous, or I think, oh, I'm not quite sure if today I'm really thinking about the right way to do it, I go, hang on a minute. I want to be curious. This process is all about being curious, and animals love curiosity. I think that's their energy. They're very curious, aren't they? Okay, so let's look at the my practice then as part of the website of Speak Good Human. So when you click on the link that's in the chat box, it will take you directly to my practice den. So when you scroll down, you will see these animals that have been very kindly agreed to be our animal teachers. And it's just something I want to share with you, but I do check in with them frequently just to say, are you happy to still be in here? I also check with their guardians, because it's very important not to take it for granted that the animals that are on here will be here long term, because they might just want to teach for a day. Some might want to teach for a week. Some might want to teach for a month. But they've all agreed till the end of August, they're all saying. So who knows? I'm guided by them. They might want to continue, but for now, they're saying, come on, get the students really kind of, focused and motivated. They believe in a timeline. They say that if I say to you, they'll be here forever, you might procrastinate. They don't want that. So what I'm going to do today, and what's motivated me to talk about this topic with regards to how to ask animals questions, is because, a lot of the question, well, in fact, to be honest, let's go 99% of the questions come from they're human, because it's them that has the concern, and it's them that approaches us to communicate with the animals. And what I've discovered, you know, as I've become more experienced, is that sometimes the questions that are being given to us to communicate with the animal may not actually be either meaningful to them, or it can be so general in a way that we're not quite sure what to do. You know, we might ask the question and then go, okay, so it feels as if the answer can just be a yes or no. And it doesn't feel quite right that it should just be a yes or no. So I'm going to make this a very practical webinar. I'll go through as many animals as the animals themselves are agreeable for me to focus on them. I work very much in this way. I could have easily prepared maybe before the webinar and said to myself, right, I'll pick Susie, I'll pick Indy, I'll pick Butler, I'll choose Loki, and I'll do Louie, and they will. But when I do that, the animals are going, hey, we're on the panel, we decide. So I'll be guided by them. So in a way, what that also demonstrates is the way that I work. And I think that's important for me to share with you, because it's an insight, perhaps, you know, if you're interested in the way that I work, about how I am when I'm in that communication mode with the animals. I don't necessarily say things in a very, say, tidy way, for example, and it's not very structured, but that's because I can hear the animals guiding me. So it would be a very different situation if I was doing a prepared talk or presentation. So it feels important for this webinar that you have almost like, well, you have a real life kind of, you'll be a real life witness to what it's like when I tune into animals and I'm guided by them, and all part of kind of offering it as a way to share with you how it works. And also at the same time, I'm going to say to you, my style isn't necessarily your style. So don't try and think you need to do things my way, because I'm different to other animal communicators. I'm also similar to other animal communicators. Take from it what works for you. If you suddenly feel drawn to something that I'm doing or saying, and it gets you intrigued, and you're thinking, ooh, that's, you know, I really like that, then explore that. But if there are things that I'm saying or doing or presenting to you that you feel as if, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with that, or, you know, you just don't quite relate to it, that's fine too, okay? So I'm always into making sure that animal communication is very much in your own style. Okay, so I think the animals are ready. And I feel like you're ready. I feel like some of you got like pen and paper. You're very diligent, so I'm very impressed. I'm going to, well, this is recorded. I'm going to see if Josh, who manages this amazing site, Be Good Human, I'm going to see if he's able to perhaps include this recording on my practice den, so that if you wanted to, you know, go back and check with the animal that I'm sharing with you and how to ask them questions, then you can do so. But at the moment, you can have this as a replay. Okay, so let's see which animal wants me to, I'm being drawn to Suki. So you click on the picture for those of you who might not have used the site before. So hopefully you'll see now a screen that shows Suki on here. And you got a little bit of information, and then you got the questions. So I'm going to go through the questions and share with you how to ask Suki those questions. Right, so the first question is, are you happy? Now, that is such a popular question. So for Suki, what Suki wants to share with you is that when you want to ask Suki, are you happy? What Suki would like is for you to also bring up the emotion of happiness. So this is one way to communicate either a question to an animal, or to communicate what you need to find out from them. So using this as a, are you happy? One of the suggestions, and what I would do too, is I would think about something that makes me happy. Okay, I'll think about a memory or something that's happened today, and I'll just pause for a moment and wait for the feeling of happiness to come to me. So now I've thought about something and I can feel quite happy. I will then send it to Suki. And what I'm saying to Suki is, this is what happiness feels like to me. And obviously I have already thought about something that made me happy. So she can link the emotion with the thought that I have. So what I'm really saying to Suki is, I need to know if you're happy. I would like the answer to be more than just yes or no. Because if we think about it, if we're relaying the communication to Suki's owner, if you just put, yes, Suki is happy, or if you put, no, Suki's not happy, can you see it's almost like, well, we're not quite sure what to do with that information. So you want to expand. How is Suki going to confirm to her guardian, to her owner, that she is happy or not? Okay, so one of the ways is to, for yourself, bring up the emotion of happiness and send it to Suki. Now, my understanding of why this is important is that a lot of the, well, in fact, all of the emotions that we are asking the animal about, these are primarily human created emotions. Do you know what I mean? Like, or the words we use, you know, the terms we use for the emotion. So don't make an assumption that the animal that you're speaking to or communicating with relates to the term. Yeah. Now, some animals are perfectly, you know, okay with that. I feel like with Suki, I need to share with her, what does happiness really mean? Okay. So you can see where I'm coming from. So think about something happy. In fact, you can do that now. You know, if things come to you, this could be part of your submission for the communication you can send to the guardian. For those of you who may have already communicated with Suki, you can do it again. You know, it's not like a one-off communication. So I'm sure Suki's guardian would be more than delighted to receive more communications from Suki. So bring up the emotion of happiness, send that to Suki, and see what comes back. So I'll be interested to find out what you get from that. So that would be that one question. Now, do you need anything? Is the second question. So again, I would assume or think that when you probably read that question, do you need anything? It's so broad, isn't it? But that is the kind of questions that you will get, because in many ways, we don't sometimes really know what to ask our animals. And we kind of feel like we've probably given them everything and they seem happy. And, you know, particularly with small animals, you know, like a guinea pig, sometimes it's harder to read them. So, you know, therefore it's important to know, is there anything else, you know, that they need? So how would you break that question down? So for me, this question will probably take about 15-20 minutes, you know, because there's so much, there's so many ways to kind of check that. So again, you could ask Suki that question and go, do you need anything? And you might get the answer, no. But it just feels like it's not enough. So what I would do with a question like that is I will go through all their physical needs. I will check their emotional needs, and I will check their spiritual needs. So, you know, maybe not many of us will remember to check our animals' spiritual needs, but animals do have spiritual needs. And what do I mean by that? Okay, so let's go with physical. So do you need anything? So you could communicate to Suki. Do you like, do you like your bedding, for example? Do you like your environment that you're in? So can you see, even though you might get the answer yes or no, you're expanding the question of do you need anything? Because if she's happy with all these list of checks that you're making, it means that she may or may not need anything more. Yeah. So then when you relay it to the guardian, you can say, right, I checked her environment, I checked her bedding, I checked her food, I checked, whether she gets enough fresh air. I check whether she's got enough exercise. So her physical needs. Then you can look at her emotional needs. I check whether she is, feeling content, whether she has any, whether she feels bored, whether she needs companions, whether she has enough stimulation. Yeah. So you can check that. So if you get, yep, I'm happy with that. Yes, I'm happy with that. No, don't need any more, don't need any more straw, don't need any more fresh air, don't need any more exercise, then you know she doesn't need anything else. Then looking at the spiritual needs, you can look at, do you like, energy work? What's the energy like, in your home? What is the relationship that you have with your guardian? How do you feel about that? Does that feel okay? So those are like a spiritual needs. Do you have any kind of, do you like meditation? Do you like music? Do you like, anything that helps Suki's energy? So you may find she might have some spiritual needs. I'm getting that from her a little bit. So I wonder if any of you can pick up on that. Yeah. So can you see how question 2 can literally expand into lots of different questions, but how wonderful to receive a communication. This is speaking about Suki's guardian, to know that by her just asking, do you need anything? You're checking the physical needs, the emotional needs, and the spiritual needs of Suki. Okay, so I hope that helps. And then the third question is there anything you want to tell your person or anything your person needs to know? Again, where'd you start with something like that? Yeah. So if you're thinking that, like, how do I, where do I start? That's absolutely fine. That is absolutely the right reaction as well to that question. So it doesn't matter whether you're a learner, you're a student, whether you've been doing it for years. There are still some questions that you go, ooh, I don't know, how do I ask the animal that? Okay, so is there anything you want to tell your person? Now, sometimes with a question like that, you may want to choose some energy tools to help you. Yeah. So what's coming to me as I'm connecting with Suki is I use oracle cards as a kind of a go-to, because we see this question, is there anything you want to tell me or anything your person needs to know, feels as if the person is looking for a deeper message from her animal. Yeah, do you get that sense? So now it may be that I can just sit with that question and just wait for Suki to send me something, or I can go through, for example, some kind of like energy tools, or what other things that that allows access to, say, wisdom or deep messages. So you could say, so if you're, for example, somebody who really loves crystals, you could ask Suki, out of my crystal collection, is there any that's that you're drawn to for me to choose for your guardian? And say, for example, you're drawn to the rose quartz. Now, if you know the benefits and the healing properties of rose quartz, it could be that Suki is either asking for healing for her guardian, or she's asking for healing for herself, or a healing for the two of them. Or like I say, you can pick an oracle card, and then there's a wisdom message in there that you can then send to the guardian. So that's definitely one way of looking at that question. So I think Suki's been quite chatty. So I hope that that's been helpful to you with regards to Suki. So I'm just looking down here just because I'm checking in case there's anything wrong on the screen and somebody's looking out for me. Right, let's move on to another animal. Let's say thank you to Suki for that. And let's see who else wants to clarify their questions. Let's have a look. Okay, so I am drawn to Loki. Loki's been eyeing me up actually the whole evening so far. So this is Loki, and his questions from his guardian. So I'm just going to connect with Loki for a minute and thank him for being a teacher and for coming forward, you know, now to kind of talk about the questions that his guardian has for him and how to help you to ask him those questions. So the first question is, what's going on with your front leg? Okay, so right, so there's obviously something going on with his front leg. Now, I would say it's important to establish which leg. And this is where, you know, perhaps most of us will go, ooh, if I say left, what if it's right? If I say right, what if it's left? Totally understandable. But I don't want you to worry about that, because the whole process is very much about you really only focusing on the animal and not worrying about you. Okay, because this thing is all about the animals, not about you. So the way to ask Loki is, I'll say to him, your guardian says, is there something going on with your front leg? Would you like to show me which one it is? So I want to find out, number one. So what I'm doing is I'm establishing for myself with Loki whether there's something going on with his leg from his perspective. So I wouldn't necessarily just take it from the question and then just go, right, there's something going on your front leg. You know, what is it? I just want to have my own relationship with Loki. So I'll say to Loki, you know, are you aware, number one, are you aware if there's something going on with one of your front legs? And then I'll get a sense of whether he's going to say yes or no. Now, some of you might work with a sense of yes or no. Some of you may not. Now, what you may get, and Loki's sharing this with me, is that very quickly when you ask him, he may show you an image of whether he's either lifting his right leg or his left leg at you. Okay, it's very quick. Or you can almost like visualize that you're with him, because ultimately you are, and you're actually stroking each leg and just feel which one feels, you know, just like, okay. So even though it's a photograph, you know, telepathically it's real, it's happening. So this is what I would do if I'm not sure. So say if I, and it's good to have a double check, as I call it. So say, for example, I say to Loki, right, number one, are you aware there's something going on with your leg? And then I see that he lifts one of his leg up for me, which he's just done, and I can see it. And then I want to double check. So I said to him, okay, if that's the leg, can I feel both legs myself and get a double check on it just to make sure I've got it right? So I'd physically, as in telepathically, physically, you know, I'll look at the photo and I'm almost like feeling the whole of his leg and then feeling the other leg and then getting a sense. Okay. Now, as you're doing that, you may start to get some sensations about whether it feels like it's pain or whether it feels like it's pins and needles, whether it's numb, whether he's sensitive. Yeah. So question one is, what's going on with your front leg? You need to ask really quite a lot of questions, particularly with health, with animals. It's important that you kind of ask more specific questions, because an animal may not necessarily, you know, Loki's a bit of a joker. He's saying to me, you know, I'm not going to diagnose myself. He says, I'm not medically trained. He's making me say this. He says, I'm not medically trained, so I'm not going to give you a diagnosis. I'm not going to tell you that I've got a fracture or I've got a a sprain or a strain. He says, but I need you, he says, us to help him kind of describe it to us so that we can then articulate it to his guardian, and then his guardian can then either refer to a health practitioner. So it's about getting all the jigsaw pieces together. So yeah, I hope I'm making sense here. So yeah, Loki's telling me I'm doing fine. So thank you, Loki. So that will be the first question. Find out what's going on with your front leg. You don't just go, Loki, what's going on with your front leg? He might go, I don't know. And then you're stuck. So say to him, share with me if there's something going on with your front legs. Then ask him which one, and then ask to feel, and then tune in. And you can ask questions like, is it numb? Does it hurt? Is it sore? Is it constant? Is it intermittent? What is it like to walk on it? How is it when you're resting? Was it like when you're running with it? Does it bother you? Can you see how one question can be lots of questions? And so when you're starting out with communications, you may find that your communications may be short, okay? And then now you can see, as you become more practiced and all these questions you can ask the animal, you can see why the communication then kind of fills out, yeah? So when I started, my communications really only kind of lasted maybe 10, 15 minutes. And if I was doing a transcript, it might be, I don't know, maybe 2 paragraphs. But as time goes on, because I've learned that animals are great for chatting, they just want us to ask them the questions that, they can relate to and answer us. My sessions are usually an hour video call minimum. So if I was to transcribe, it would probably be a very long script. That's probably why I do video calls. Okay, so the second question, what can I do to make you happier? So very similar to Suki, but let's see what Loki suggests. What can I do to make you happier? To make you happier? Yep. Let me just check that question with him. So again, he's saying what he would like. So this is quite a theme I have found with the question, "Are you happy?" And it's a very, like I say, a very popular question. So what Loki is also asking, very similar with Suki, is for us to think about something happy and share that with him. And then it's almost like he's saying to me, he's going to bounce back. So if you share something happy with him, he's going to share something happy back with you. And not only with happiness, you can share, if something makes you frustrated. So you think about something that frustrates you, share that with him, and he will share something back that frustrates him. If you share something that makes you feel sad, then he'll do the same. Something that makes you feel excited, then he'll do the same. So yeah, so he's not sticking to just question number 2, what can I do to make you happier? He's actually looking at other emotions. So I'm getting with him that he's also asking the question, share with my guardian things that make me feel excited. So it's very interesting. What I'm getting with Loki here is that the emotion happy is not as important to him as the emotion excited. Haha. So it may be that when you ask him the question, what can I do to make you happier? You see, Loki's almost like, no, the question is, what can I do to make you more excited? Yeah. And the reason, okay, so kind of backtrack so that you can see how I moved from happier to excitement, is that when I shared something happy with Loki, I just got a sense that he didn't really resonate with that emotion so much. Wasn't really that interested. Yeah. So you have to use your own sense of, um, did that really, did that really kind of, did that emotion really get sent to Loki? Did I feel something there? So it's that sense of connection. Okay. And you can all do this because I can hear that this is important to share with you. Um, bring in another human being, someone you really connect with. You can have like the best conversation or no conversation. You just feel very connected. So when you say something to them like, oh, you remember that day when we went shopping and we saw this, amazing performance on the street, and that person goes, yeah, yeah, then you got this feeling of you were really both, really able to recall that memory. So you have the sense of, yeah, this person really relates to what I'm saying. And then you might have another person where you go, oh, I went for that amazing Italian meal the other day. And the person goes, yeah. Mm. And then you go, that's because he's more of a person, he's more of a curry person. He's not really into Italian. But you get that sense, like, even though you were really excited about, your meal, that you really love Italian food, and that person's like, yeah, that's fine. Okay, so that's what happened with me just now when I was talking to Loki about, how to make him feel happier. I felt like he was like, yeah, happy, but wasn't really that interested. And so I naturally would then go through other emotions just to see which ones he would react to. So I might ask his guardian to change that question to, what can I do to make you more excited? But I have a feeling probably the guardian doesn't want him to be more excited than he already is. Okay, so now the third question, do you still want to go and see Rachel, who is his hydrotherapist? So how do you ask Loki that question? So what I do here is, because I don't know who Rachel is, but I have in the context that she's a hydrotherapist. So this is important because you will get questions sent to you where people will say, oh, can you ask my cat what she thinks about Peter? And so you need to know who Peter is within that context. So what I will do is I can visualize what a hydrotherapist do. Okay, I will hold the energy of the name Rachel in my mind. And so what I also do is I visualize what I believe Loki would be doing when he sees the hydrotherapist. So the whole thing, entering into a center, seeing a person called Rachel, the water tank, all the prep. And I then ask Loki to send me emotions around that. So again, I'm not asking for the question yes or no, because it's important to get it from the animal's perspective. Okay, you want to be able to expand on it. So I would avoid answers that are just yes or no. Okay, so yeah, so that's what I'll do. I'll visualize the whole process of what it would be for Loki to be driven somewhere to the center to see a person. So it would be a female called Rachel, and going into a room where there'd be a water tank, treadmill, and ask Loki to show me what it's like when he's walking on it. And then if I get the emotion that he's, say, excited, because he relates to the word excited, then I would get that. Now, I could actually talk about this question a lot more. Let me see if it's relevant, because I just want to be aware. I just want to be conscious also about your time and what you need from this webinar. We can always do another webinar, can't we? Okay, so when somebody asks you to ask your animal whether, for example, they want to go and see a therapist, or whether they like agility, like an activity, whether they want to go and see their acupuncturist. Now, there's so many components. Now, this is the thing that we might take for granted sometimes and not realize it. There are so many components to a scenario. So I'll use the hydrotherapist, for example. Now, Loki may be really pleased to see Rachel as a person. Okay, she might make a lot of fuss about him, and he might really love her, and he really is very excited to see her. So you see the question, do you still want to go and see Rachel? He might go yes, because he likes Rachel. But reading that sentence, I would take it that what the guardian is asking is, would Loki still want to go and see Rachel for hydrotherapy? Yeah, so split it. So say to Loki, when you see Rachel, send me emotion. When you see the room that you go in and there's the treadmill and the water tank, send me an emotion. When you're actually walking and having to work on the treadmill, send me an emotion. When it's all over, send me an emotion. Send me an emotion for when you're home and resting from the therapy. So can you see how all those components are very important for the guardian to make a decision about whether Loki, wants to go back to see Rachel? Okay, so I hope that helps. Right, I've got a couple of messages on the chat, so let me just check just in case it's important here. So, okay, so Linda, makes sense. Happy to see more of a people. Yep, I'm glad that helps you, Linda. That's brilliant. Okay, so let's move to another animal and their question and see. I hope this is helping all of you to feel more confident with how you approach an animal for communication, because I know, we always feel a little bit kind of nervous before we start a communication, and sometimes that can actually be the block. When I say block, something that stops us from actually doing it. But if you know that you can actually look at the question and be creative with that question to ask the animal, hopefully that incites more, kind of a sense of that curiosity for you. So, okay, let's go with, I have to be honest, they're all shouting at me. So it's me that's having to choose. Okay, I'm going to go for Lucy. Now, I will tell you with Lucy that when I contacted her guardian, which I did put a little note in here, she didn't have any questions for Lucy. So here's a very good example too, that, somebody might ask you to communicate with their animals, or if you're looking for case studies and you approach someone for their animal and they go, I don't really have any questions to ask them. And so what do you do? What do you do? Freestyle is great. Some of you would just love freestyle and just sit with the animal and just, have the information come to you and you relay it. That's great. Another way, if you are kind of almost given a blank canvas, is you can do what we did with Suki. You can check their physical, their emotional, and their spiritual welfare. So if the guardian doesn't have any questions that are specific, you could say to the animal, why don't I just do like a quick check with you? Can I check you physically? What your routine, what your environment's like, what your food's like, what's your activity levels like. I'll check your emotional status. Are you stimulated? Are you feeling content? Do you have any kind of, are you feeling, do you have enough love in your life? Are you lonely? Are you bored? That kind of thing. And then the spiritual needs. Do you have any kind of energy work that you would like? Okay, so with Lucy, I actually asked Lucy what she would like to be asked, and I do that with animals because a lot of the times the questions, like I say, are from the human. So animals themselves would like to relay things to their human. So now what Lucy has asked is that she would like the learners to communicate with her about how to release the past and forgive. Okay, so we've got a little bit of Lucy's past history here, past life. So now how would you ask an animal, how would you ask Lucy to communicate about releasing the past and forgiveness. So this is a very different kind of communication. So this, I feel, is a very spiritual communication. So this is where you can use energy tools, and it's fine to use energy tools in communication. You know, energy tools are beautiful. They don't take the place of communication. Nor does it, you know, kind of replace it. It works well. It works well together. So with Lucy, I would bring in oracle cards. I would bring in flower essences. I would bring in, you know, crystals, anything, Reiki healing. And you would just have a conversation with Lucy like you would with somebody who could be struggling with releasing the past and forgiveness. And you will also say to Lucy, I'm open to receiving your wisdom. Now, my sense with Lucy, and I'm smiling because she's just letting me in now on the reason why she's asked that. How very interesting. I didn't get this from her before until now. She's just saying to me, whoever's been drawn to communicate with her, and I know we've had a few communications with Lucy already. See if this relates to you if you have communicated with Lucy. Lucy tells me that if you're drawn to communicating with her, you have, you yourself have your own process of needing to release the past and forgive. Wow, I didn't realize she was going to say this till now. How exciting. So if you've been drawn to communicate with Lucy, what she's doing is she's going to almost help you as you communicate with her, as she communicates with you. It's almost like a sharing of experiences. So you share a situation with Lucy where you have either been through or are still processing how to release the past and how to forgive. Wow. Okay. So that's a very interesting one from Lucy. So thank you very much, Lucy, for that insight. So if you're drawn to Lucy, then she's going to help you and you're going to help her with regards to releasing the past. Okay. Right, now I'm going to do one more, I think, only because of time factor. If you find that this has been very useful for you, I'm very happy to do another session with different animals, okay? So just let me know either in the chat box or in the event page on Facebook. Right, I'm going to choose one more. Okay, I'm going to go to Butler. He's also been kind of looking at me. So, in fact, like I said, they're all, I thought they'll just, some of them would be quiet, but, well, that's probably why they're all in the den, because they're keen to teach. So there's not going to be any of them that's going to be hanging back. So this is Butler, and the questions are you happy where you live? Okay, so how would you ask Butler that question? So the word happy again. So I would now break it down, because the word is, are you happy where you live, rather than are you happy? Okay, so I would start with where you live. I would ask Butler to show me visually, but you know, using words as well as all my other senses, about where he lives. So ask him to show you. So if the information's coming slow, don't be shy about asking the question. So you could say, right, where you live, does it have grass, or is the ground dry? Do you have space, or is it quite crowded? You know, is it somewhere warm? Is it somewhere cold? What can you see? So ask lots of questions where you live. No different to if you were curious about somebody you've just met and you want to know where they live, and you want them to describe it. So a good example, Butler's saying to me saying that is still not helpful to you. Okay, thank you, Butler. So say somebody said, so you say to somebody, where do you live? And they mention the name of a town that they live, but that town means nothing to you. So you then need to ask them to describe the town, and say if this person isn't really that good at coming forth with information, then you can say, right, does this town have a post office? Does it have shops? Does it have houses? Or is it quite remote? Is there a lake nearby? Are there hills, or is it flat ground? Yeah. So that question for Butler, are you happy where you live? Ask about where he lives first. Then the information you get about where he lives, then ask him to send the emotion related to that. Now, the reason why this is important to do it this way is, now he may or may not describe where he currently lives. Okay? So this is the thing with communication, when we're afraid to get things wrong. The reason you don't want to focus on getting things wrong is because the animal could be describing something that's very important. Well, they describe things that are important to them, but it doesn't necessarily mean now. So say you get information from Butler and he describes where he lives, and he shows you that, say, he's not happy, okay? And you're thinking, oh, now I don't know how to tell the guardian. Go for it, and you may find, I'm not saying this is the case with Butler, I'm just giving you an example, that what he described was where he was, and his emotion was he wasn't. So sometimes they might say where they weren't happy, which kind of means they're happy where they are now. Does that make sense? Okay. So always kind of be a little bit kind of, don't have fixed ideas. So that one question can be broken into two. So the second question is, what's your problem with rugs? Okay. I love the way that question is phrased. It was phrased exactly the way the guardian phrased it. So she's obviously, you can tell by the question, can't you, that she's like frustrated with whatever it is Butler's doing with the rugs. So I would ask Butler to show me what happens when he has a rug on him. So what I would do is I would visualize a rug on him, and then I would really be almost like inside his body, okay? Because I'm going to drop the word problem, because maybe Butler hasn't got a problem, but I'm more interested in how he feels when he has a rug on him, rather than asking him, what don't you like about the rugs? Because we would make an assumption from that question, what's your problem with rugs, that he doesn't like rugs. Yeah? So I'm not going to make that assumption. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say to Butler, I'm going to put a rug on you telepathically, and please share with me the sensation you feel on your body, the thoughts you have, the emotions you feel. And then I'm not going to just stop with one rug. I'm going to try different rugs. Yeah, I'm going to start off with maybe a soft rug. Then I might have a waterproof rug. And then I might have one that's quilted, or I might have one that's light, or I might even go a bit crazy and go colored ones, plain ones, woolly ones. Yeah. So you can see how one question can be a whole plethora of other questions, but far more meaningful for the animal. Okay, right, I'm just going to check my chat box because it looks like there's quite a few messages on there now. Okay, so right, that's great. You're all finding it helpful. That's brilliant. Okay, let me see what else is here. So Linda says, yeah, that's fine. Tracy, you're saying, I find it hard to feel emotion. I have warmth in my body. Then it may be, if you're finding it hard to feel emotion, you can ask for the word. Okay. Now, only because I know Tracy, I will say this. Tracy, you're great with emojis on your phone. So you're very emotional. Ask the animal to share with you an emoji. Okay. So do whatever resonates with you. So you can say to the animal, you know, when you're happy, what's the emoji? When you're sad, what's the emoji? Because it might be different to the ones you choose, so don't make assumptions. When you're uncomfortable, what's the emoji? Okay, so that works for Tracy. Now, it might work for some of you, might not work for all of you. It's just that because I know Tracy, she loves her emoji. So always use something that you can relate to, and an animal will help you. Okay, right, so Lauren, that's fine. Sonia, you're fine. Verena, you're fine. Okay, so that's great. Linda, I'm kind of curious. What came to me was that they make him itchy and he tries to bite and pull them off. Now, Linda, I would like to ask you to submit that to Butler's Guardian and see what the feedback is, okay? So go for it. Go for it. These animals are keen for you to communicate with them. And again, just to kind of reassure you, the practice den is managed by me. So although your communications are submitted directly to the Guardian, I ask the Guardian to actually send me the feedback first so that I can look at your communication and their feedback, make sure that their feedback is useful, you know, and then I'll forward it on to you. Okay, so I am going to just check the chat box one more time because we're going to come to an end of this webinar now. Oh, excellent, Linda. I'm glad that you're going to do that. That's what I got as well. Oh, Tracy, you got the itchy as well. That's good. Okay, so I hope that this has been useful for all of you. If you would like to have another session with different animals to go through some of the questions, then I'm more than happy. But I hope it gives you an insight to how exciting it is to really find out from the animal, you know, their perspective. Okay, so thank you for your time. Thank you for your participation. Continue to practice with the animals. If you find that tonight's session has given you more food for thought, and although you might have already communicated with Suki and Loki and Butler and Lucy, then do again, have another communication if you've picked up, you know, more tips and you'd like to. So you don't just have to communicate with that animal, you know, just the once. Okay, so thank you very much. And I shall put the link for the replay in the event page. Okay, and hope that all of you have a lovely rest of evening, day, wherever you are in the world. Okay, so I'm just going to end the meeting now. Thanks again. Bye.